So I knew I had to be intentional, and I told God, please distract, like make my eyes, like take my eyeballs, and don't let me see any man besides you. Like I don't want to look at them anyway. I don't want to entertain, and I want to make sure I've healed. I want to make sure that they've healed. I want to make sure that I've given my fragments back to those people, and I've gotten my fragments back.
Hey y'all, I'm your host, Brooke Kinchin. Welcome to God's Coffee Call, a place where there's always a fresh brewed conversation happening of personal testimony and life experiences. So grab a cup of coffee, pull a chair to the table, and join our conversation. Hey everybody, welcome back to God's Coffee Call. I am your host, Brooke Kinchin, and as you can tell, this week looks a little different. I am not by myself. I am with some of the coolest people I know on planet Earth, and I hope by the end of this podcast you will also think that I am not really that old because I just called you guys cool. There's probably some other slang word that I should be using for them, but they are of every age and every caliber of life for their generation. And we're going to have a conversation today about relationships. All this month we have talked about relationships. We've talked about love languages. We talked to people who've been married almost 50 years. And we've talked about divorce and blended families and what that looks like. And this week, I wanted to sit down with people of a generation that I'm not from. And I want to hear, what does relationship look like to them? Gen Z, we've got some Gen Alphas. What did you say you were? A millennial. So we got some millennials here. We're just going to have a conversation today. So settle in. Get your coffees, your waters, your root beers, your food, whatever you need, and join our conversation with us, all right? First we're going to do is just let them introduce themselves a little bit. Tell them who you guys are. So I want you to tell me your name, and are you in a relationship or not at the current moment? We'll start down here.
So my name is Landon. I'm currently single, not really looking for anything. I'm just sticking to God right now and trying to move on.
And how old are you?
I'm 18.
18, good.
Hi, I'm Abby. I am 17 years old. Me and my boyfriend have been in a relationship for 3.5 years, and we're just taking every day to build our relationship and God together.
And I am Brittany. I'm 29, and I am currently single.
I am Brooke. I'm 46, 15 years strong.
Hi, I'm Maddie. My boyfriend and I have courted for 4 months, and then we've been together a month and a half. And I don't know. I'm very excited to see where the Lord takes us, and I'm excited.
How old are you?
Oh, I'm 21.
21.
Hi, I'm Taylor. I'm 15 years old, and I'm in a relationship with him.
Hi, my name's Tucker. I'm 17 years old, and I'm in a relationship with this beautiful girl right here. We make a year in 3 days. We're doing the fun facts.
Sure. No, we don't have to do that. Yeah, no, we're good. We're good. So here we are. Well, that just kind of sets the precedence. We have younger and we have older, and that's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about relationship. This is open to anybody. When I ask a question, if you say, "Hey, Umi, let's talk about it." Do you believe in love at first sight? No, Tucker, why?
Me and Taylor, our relationship, I don't know how that started. I did not like her. She did not like me.
Yes.
We were not attracted to each other at all,
Right.
and she was not attracted to me. And we didn't find out until a couple months in our relationship that that's how we thought about each other when we first started dating.
Okay. All right. So love at first sight. Anybody else?
I do think
You talk a
I
little
do
bit.
believe it. I do believe in love at first sight. Me and Zachary, we kind of grew up together, but we really became friends, riding the bus because he lives literally a minute down the road. And the first day of us getting on the bus because we sat right next to each other, it was just there was just something there. Now we had our journeys in between, but it was just always there was Zachary.
And he was just there.
Yes.
Anybody else? Yeah, Madison?
For me, yes, I do believe in love at first sight, but I think it's more so with Jesus. I knew when I fell in love with him because he loved me first, and I never experienced true love. And I feel like in the moment when I went to church and just felt his love, I was like, okay, now that he gave me that love, I know I can love people properly. And when I saw my boyfriend, I was like, baby, he is bad news. He walked in the church. I'm like, look, I got to work on me, Lord. You said no. I'm in my waiting season.
Right.
I'm not doing that. And he asked me for a rock. And if you know me, I give all my friends rocks, like little friendship rocks.
I love it.
She does.
And I'll pick them up from locations like we go to and stuff like that. And he's like, where's my rock? I'm like, boo, I don't know you. So yes, I do believe it. Love at first sight.
So let me say that because both of you said, yes, you believe it. No, you don't believe it. But I think it's love at first sight, maybe in the right timing, right? Because y'all have been friends. Y'all friends didn't really like each other. But when, right? You said you didn't.
No, so I really just think because like when I met her, I had like that was BC, and like I didn't know God at the time. So I really think the reason I couldn't have love at first sight is because I didn't have like my sight. I had the veil over my eyes. Like I think that also affected how our relationship started.
And that's what I'm saying. I think like Maddie said, like you met God, you encountered God, and you saw what real love and true love was in that moment. So because I've experienced it, when it walks in the room, I'm able to recognize it.
Exactly.
So I think there's times that true love at first sight does not exist, but I think there comes a moment in life maybe that something clicks and the Lord clicks and it's in that moment and that
like
timing.
when you meet the one, like, and he's put you in that timing, he allows you to have that love, like that attraction, that spark with that person because he's placed them for you.
Right. Beyond just sitting on the bus and always being there, right? No, Brandon and I were like that. We talk about it because I was 27, 28, not interested in dating anybody. I had said, next guy I date, I'm going to marry. Like, I was intentional. Like, I wouldn't even talk to new people at church because people was trying to, like, get me married. And so, for real, I told our pastors, like, I'm not on the greeter team. I'm not welcoming nobody because everybody was trying to hook me up because I'm 28 and I'm not in a marriage or not in a relationship. And so I was like, nope, I don't need anybody. And he come to our church for, I don't know, a couple of months. And I didn't even recognize that he was there. But then something happened where he was going to start working with our youth group that I was working with. And I'm like, awesome. He's going to be great for our young guys. So cool. So great. Not aware at all. And when he introduced himself and said his name instantly, like for the first time in my life, I heard the audible voice of the Lord say, I got you. And I knew at that moment that I was going to marry him. But up until that point, like it wasn't a God time. It wasn't God's season. I was like, he's just another guy at church. I don't even talk to him. I don't have anything to do with him. So I think that's cool. I like that. All right. Do you guys believe that there's like this one person out there for us to marry?
Yes.
Yeah? All right. Talk about that.
So.
Wait a second. Did all of y'all say yes?
I said no.
Okay.
We'll get to it.
We'll get to it. Okay. It's interesting all of y'all said yes because I thought you were going to say
Can you
no.
say the question one more time? Sorry.
Do you believe that there's one specific person out there for us to marry? Like a soulmate?
I do believe so because like it kind of goes back to like love at first sight. It's in God's timing. So I feel like in God's timing, he'll put that one person that we are meant to see through his timing. Like, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I definitely believe in soulmates because I feel like, so like Adam was given Eve as a helpmate and they went together. That's why God gave her to him. And I feel like it's the same way when you find your husband or your wife. They've been through things, you've been through things, and together y'all will be able to create this amazing testimony and be able to work together in a marriage and with a family because of your background and your experience. Y'all be able to become a team together.
Okay. You quiet.
No, I know.
Give us your wisdom.
I'm soaking
I know.
everything in. I do believe that God has a person in mind for you, especially if you have that desire to be married. Because some people don't have that.
Right,
So in
sure,
cases of people that are not called to be married, well then maybe not everyone has a soulmate. But for those that God has placed the desire in, I do believe that there is a person in mind. And in cases of like, a spouse passes away or, whatever the case may be, I do believe that God has other plans for that person as well.
I'm just making a note because I want to come back. I want to stay here, but what do you have to say?
Okay. So I say no because I feel like Paul says singleness is a gift. And not everyone is called to marriage. You were supposed to be like God is the bridegroom. And I feel like some people, their soulmate is a friend. Because some people, it says in the Bible that a friend can stick closer than a brother. And I feel like God does send you people intentionally in your life, but it's only in the season. It's kind of like your favorite episode in your show. Not always the main character stays all the time. And I feel like if we get attached to that person, like what if they die? You can't live in your life in what if, of course, but I feel like God knows who you need for that moment in that season of your life, and it could be 20 years of that. And I'm so thankful I have that, but it's not a guarantee that that person's going to be in there. And I know God, if the desire is still there and He still intends me to be with someone, it might be with someone else if my spouse dies. Because me and my boo's locked in. We don't do that cheating stuff. But I'm just saying, like, if he passes away and it's been like a few years, like 15 years, and the Lord's like, Maddie, I want to give you a spouse.
Yeah.
I feel like that would be the only exception, or like a friendship.
Yeah.
I don't know. I get emotional when I talk.
No, I love it. Either one of you have anything? You don't have. You can or can.
I believe in soulmates, so I believe that Taylor is my soulmate. Just because.
Taylor, that's sweet.
I'm sorry, I can't do this.
Well, yes, you can. You got
It's so
this.
sweet, but I don't want to like.
No, I know what you
smile.
mean.
Yeah, but I really do think the reason being is because, like I said earlier, we had no physical attraction to each other. I thought, I'm not gonna say I thought she was ugly, but I didn't think she was attractive.
There was just not that attraction.
There was no attraction, and we're not gonna get into the backstory about how it started, but there was ulterior motives to each of us why we wanted to be in the relationship, and I think that's what drove it at the beginning, and then God took it over.
Got you. Okay. All right.
Yeah, because he wasn't like he didn't go to church, he didn't do all this, and then he came with me because stuff happened, and then he came with me and showed up to my church and was just like there.
It's the only place I was allowed to see her.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's real. Like, sometimes Brandon tells me all the time he used to go to church because he wanted to see some girls. Like, he will honestly tell you that. For those of you that didn't hear behind the camera, he said he was on the hunt. But I mean, that's real, right? If we talk about it for real, like if we're not all Jesus and holy with all of this conversation, I mean, that's reality. Sometimes that's the only place you could see her, and he's like, "Hey, she kind of caught my eye a little bit. Got some ulterior motive."
I was quite literally told that was the only place.
Well,
I could
but I
see.
mean, yeah, like that. I think it can be used, and it was used in your relationship and in that moment. So
Yeah, because then over the summer he got saved, he got baptized, he did all this, he did all that, and now
here we are, almost here.
Yeah,
So let me go back to what you said, Brittany, because I literally had this conversation with a girl this week. If God created Adam and Eve and He told them to be fruitful and multiply, how? And I'm asking, I'm playing devil's advocate here, kind of thing, not calling you out. How do we justify that maybe not everybody's meant to be married?
Okay, so I kind of was sitting here thinking, and I kind of want to change my answer.
Oh, okay.
So I do believe in soulmates, like that. Well, the term soulmate, God is my soulmate.
Right.
Above everything, I was created for Him. Like before I'm ever called to be a wife, before I'm ever called to be a mom, before I'm ever called to be an insurance broker, He's the one.
Yeah.
And so I feel like I think that some people are called to singleness. The Bible says that when you are single, you can focus on God's matters. But then when you're married, you're worried about your husband or you're worried about your wife. And so I think it all boils down to desire. Because I feel like if you have that desire, God placed that desire in your heart. And so in His perfect timing, you'll find that person.
Right. I think about Anna in the Bible when Jesus comes on the scene and He's literally born and His family takes Him to the temple. There's this lady and she's only got like 6 verses about her in the Bible, but she had been married. Her spouse had died at a really young age, and she spent the rest of her life, and now she was like elderly, and all she did was live in the temple, and all she did was like consecrate herself to Him. And so I agree with you. I think there's this balance of there can be relationship. God's got to be your soulmate, and you can find Him in the middle of that marriage, but also there can be that marriage and that union with Him outside of a relationship and in marriage. And will they be fruitful and multiply? Maybe not in the physical form, but we say it all the time for Mother's Day or Father's Day. People who aren't moms, well, you're a spiritual mom. You're a spiritual dad. Even if you never have those physical kids, the Lord can still use you to be fruitful and multiply in people's lives and pour into spiritual sons and daughters. And so Anybody else want to add anything on that? No? Y'all got quiet on me all of a sudden. All right.
We're soaking in.
No, I love it.
Yeah,
I love
I'm
it.
soaking it into.
Okay. Do we date to marry, or are we just dating?
I feel like we kind of just date just for the aspect of trying to find the one that God is trying to give us.
Okay.
But also, I feel like it could also be the evil one that's also trying to deliver something that's maybe not for us. So that's where we have to call upon God to try to figure out what could be either the one in His name or the one that's from the evil one.
Okay.
So it kind of just revolves around learning, playing in time, being patient, and just figuring out which one is the right one from God.
Do you think that everybody, because I think there are some people who can date
Yeah.
like that and not get these soul ties and these attachments to people to find the right one. And then I think there are some people who just cannot do it and date like that. Do you think that there could be a balance for different people, different personalities and stuff in that aspect?
Literally, like what you're saying is the definition of me and Zachary's relationship. When I was younger, I guess you can say I got around a little bit, not in that aspect, but like I've dated multiple people, been in multiple relationships before Zachary, but Zachary, complete opposite. I am his first real relationship, and I feel like for me personally, it's helped me to know, hey, yeah, this is not what I want in a relationship. I want better for myself. And I feel like it's helped me get those standards, like the top tier. This is what I deserve. This is what God has for me. But then I feel like even if you are only like with like sorry, I'm blanking. But like only if you've had like one or maybe just two relationships, I feel like also then it's helped you preserve your heart, and so you're not like pieces with everybody, you know what I mean?
Right. You want to say? You? No, well, we can go whatever order.
So we're dating to marry over here. Like if I'm dating you, like the intention is 100%. Like I'm trying to assess the situation.
Have you always been like that, or is that after Jesus?
No, even before Jesus, because
Okay.
I was in a relationship for 8 years where I had no business being in that relationship, but we were unequally yoked. It was a whole thing, but my intention was always marriage.
Gotcha.
That desire has always been there to be a wife. So even then, I think my standards were a little bit different. In the BC days, like I accepted way more than I would accept now.
Yeah.
Because like we've talked about, like I have met Jesus, and the Bible says like when you know God, you know love.
Right. Yeah.
And so like I just know what is acceptable and what's not acceptable, and
Yeah.
I believe that even as believers, you can be unequally yoked.
Yeah. Oh.
You know?
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
it doesn't, being unequally yoked doesn't just mean like a believer dating a non-believer, but like
No.
as believers, you can have different,
Yeah. Absolutely.
beliefs. But no, I'm definitely dating to marry.
Anyway, you? I mean, now I know you're dating to marry.
Oh, that's my hood. But no, back in the day, yeah, I was busting it down. But
I love you. This is why she's here. I love this.
no, because I was like God. Like when I went to the retreat, I had to get my fragments back that I gave to them people because I wanted to be a wife, but it was for the wrong reasons. Like I wanted to be a wife, but the husband didn't matter. Like I just wanted the title and the ring. God said, "No, girl, you're gonna be married to me first. Let's simmer down, girl. Gotta get your situation together." And my boyfriend and I, we had to court for 4 months because we didn't have anybody in our family to like teach us. Like nobody in our family, respectfully, besides my aunt and uncle, have been together like in a marriage. We come from 2 broken homes, and I wanted to make sure that we didn't start a foundation on broken people. Like, I need to make sure you're healed, because, baby, no, ma'am, no ham, no turkey, no, I went to the throne room, I'm like, look, Dad, what's wrong with him? What's wrong with me? Let's get it right.
Yeah.
Because I know what I started in my old relationships, and that's what made me come to Christ. Like, it says, a painful experience makes you change your ways, and that's definitely scripture for me. Like in my heart, like if it wasn't for my last relationship, I know it would have taken me longer to get to God, but it was because of that God really molded my life. And I know I want to be a wife, I know I want to be a mother, but not to the desire. And when I met Braden, he makes me want to do that so much more, but it's more so along the lines like with God in it, I see him and he makes me, I'm a very dominant person, and he makes me like be girly. And I love that. Like I love that I can be feminine, because I will direct the room here, and he's like, look, Miss Girl,
Settle it down.
like he's not a loud person. If you know him, like he's very like chill, quiet, but in a room, he's like, hey, love that you're doing that, but let's, I feel like you're not being yourself. Let's rein it in. And I'm like, oh, you probably go.
Got it. I got it. I like it.
All right.
Either one of you say anything about that? No?
About the repeat the question.
Like, do we date to marry, or are we just dating people kind of, or how has it been in your life? What does it look like now? Taylor?
I never really had like the idea. Well, no, I take that back. Wait, I had the idea that I'm like, okay, I want to find the one who I need to be with so that I can have like everything kind of like put together. But like I'm the person where I want to like control everything, and I'm learning day by day that I cannot control everything, and I'm like,
Yeah, girl.
Lord's still working on me with that one.
You two can be friends now.
He makes me humble.
Yes, yeah. Like how you were saying, you walk in a room and you're like this, and this, and this. Yeah, I do that. My mom does that, and then I'm like, okay, wait, I can't do that. I can't sit here and say, no, that person has to do this, and no, this person has to do that, because I can't control everybody. Well, I never really like understood like the whole definition of date to marry until right now when we were just talking about it. So, I mean, I guess you could say that I am, because I mean.
No, I love this. Let me say this. Tell me how old you are again.
I'm 15.
Okay, so you're the youngest one, so you see things completely different. Brittany's lived some stuff, right?
Yeah.
And you're 15 and you've lived some things, but there are. We lived some things, right? We walked through some things. We've all walked through some things. As you grow older, you walk through things, and so this is really kind of your first kind of encounter of what do I want this relationship? Am I marrying? Like. Yeah. I love that you just said, even right now, like I'm having that thought for the first time of, am I dating to marriage? Because I don't think enough people at your age are saying, why am I dating? Am I dating to marriage? Like, I think it's a conversation that needs to happen, so you don't sit here like us and be like, girl, the last relationship broke me. We was totally unyoked. Like trying to like have those conversations to keep you from that. I think it's beautiful.
Like, I've been in like relationships in the past, but it was never like something me and him had. Like it was never like this is what I want, this is what I need, like this, and this, and this.
Look at this one.
Oh Lord, have mercy on my soul.
He did the W.
Yeah, and then so like I've never fully like felt the feelings that I do with him with other people. So I mean, I guess maybe it's like yes and no, but like it's like I know I want to marry him. I know I want to date him to marry him, but like it's like I don't fully
understand, and that's totally cool. At 15, you probably don't. You shouldn't. Like I completely agree, right? I didn't know till I was 28, but I was like, yeah, maybe I'll do this thing, right? So nobody's asking you at 15. What you got?
So I'm kind of like on the same exact boat, because like whenever I first like dated completely, I've always had like just to date. I was just like I just wanted someone just to be there, and this was way before Christ. I didn't know that I could just have him or whatever. I didn't feel that. And whenever I would just date to date, I didn't realize like the difference between dating to date and then dating to marriage. I thought just whenever you date someone and then marriage just like pops in, it's just like, hey, like I didn't know that it could just really be a different type of thing. I didn't know it could have complete differences. Right. And now that I'm actually hearing it from different point of views, I can actually kind of understand it now, and I can see a different perspective of everything. Because
we're taught, I call it vibes, I call it feelings. Yes. Let's just jump into those vibes and feelings. Let's go with that, with no regard of where are we going with these things. Just that and it's that moment that instant gratification, which has been for years. Eve had that instant moment of gratification of, oh, you're right, he doesn't have the best for me. Let me have that moment. And so it's just a thing of the enemy that has just grown throughout the years of, oh, I like you, you like me, cool, let's call this thing because nobody else has a relationship, and we can say we can have a relationship, and I can be a wife eventually one day and not even have that aspect and that understanding of what does that look like? What does that mean? Kind of thing. So yeah. Anybody else want to add anything there?
I just want to say that I thought it was really good how you said that you recognized that you just wanted someone there. And I think that that can be a lot for some people, and I think that's why it's so important that when you do, like, your intention is to date to marry, because when you enter into a relationship and you just want someone there, like, for instance, you know, back when I was in the 8-year relationship, I was just running around wanting to give my heart to someone.
Right.
Like, I literally was just like, oh, take it, like, please, like, I looking back, I tried to force him to take it, like, I pressured marriage to, like, even to that point. And now looking back, I'm like, I am so satisfied in Jesus. Like, now it's like, okay, if someone's gonna pursue me, like, if you want my heart, first of all, I'm never gonna give it to you because it belongs to Jesus.
Right. Yeah.
And if you want it, you gotta keep up with him. So I think it's really important to be healed, because when you're healed, you can go into a relationship with the intention to marry. Because I think when you're running around and you're wounded, it can be very scary to like want to commit to a person.
Yeah.
Because, you know, well, nobody's ever committed to me, or I've been abandoned, or I've, you know, whatever the case may be. Fallen in love with Jesus first, being fully satisfied, fully grounded in him. Like, because there's times, I'm 29, okay, and you know, the devil will try to creep in sometimes, and he's like, you're not married yet?
Yeah, girl, I've been there.
Like, you know, everybody's already married, or, you know, if they're
so
not, something's wrong
that
with
clock's
them.
ticking, right?
You know? And like,
I mean, I had people ask my mom if I was like living a different lifestyle because I wasn't married yet. And I'm like, no, I'm like just waiting for Jesus. And they're like, I don't know, kind of thing.
And you know, it's always in the back of my mind that, you know, or your biological clock is ticking, and it's like, I feel like if it's forced like that, God has no hand in it. Like he's not going to make me feel that way. And so those thoughts are always in the back of my head, but I have no problem waiting because I am so satisfied with Jesus. And I feel like when you're satisfied, when the right person does come along, you know, it even got to a point where, yes, I desire, you know, a husband, but then I'm so in love with Jesus, I'm like, but isn't that like technically cheating?
I know, right?
Like, would that be cheating? Like, he has to love you, like, you know, like, I love you. Like,
and that's a rare place. I had gotten to that place. I dated a guy in high school for 4 years, and then after that, I was like, next person I marry, the next day I date, I'm marrying. That was age 19. We met when I was 28, and in those times, there were people saying, why aren't you married yet? People try to hook me up with people and this and that, and I just kind of like, no, I'm not doing this. And I had somebody give me a prophetic word one time, not even knowing that I was struggling with, man, I really want to be married. I want to be in this relationship. And they're like, hey, the Lord just wanted to tell me to tell you, when he's ready to share you, he'll share you.
Ooh,
and I was like,
so
okay. Like when the Lord is ready to let me have my heart to somebody else. And so that was probably, I don't know, 3 or 4 years before I even met him.
Nice.
And I remember when we were at this place in our relationship where I was like, okay, God, can I trust this guy with my heart? Is this going where I think it's going? Like, I know that what you've told me, is this going where I think it's going? And I was in prayer because I had committed myself to the Lord. I'm like, this is what I want to do. And I had this vision, me and the Lord had this moment where I literally, kind of like in Beauty and the Beast, when the Beast and Belle dance around the ballroom. Like, we were that. And in the middle of that, I literally saw the Lord hand me off to another hand. And I'm like, what in the world's happening here? And it was in that moment that the Lord just solidified in my heart, okay, this is the one I can give my heart to. This is the one that I can trust to. But that takes dedication to the Lord. That takes going, no matter what they saying, no matter what they doing, no matter what it feels like, I'm the third wheel everywhere we go. Like, and I was coming, most of us go to Calvary, and I was coming to Ever Deeper, and all these people are in relationships and doing these things, and I'm like, I'm the third wheel. Hey, everybody, how's it going? Like, here I am. But I literally was just waiting for the Lord because that's just something that I had done in my life. I had other people in my life that were dating and had been in a long-term relationship, or were going from guy to guy, girl to girl, things like that, just searching for the Lord and stuff. But I was in that weird place. But like you said, when it's his time and his moment, he will just hand you off into that place of, okay, I can trust you with this. I can do this. But I want to go back to something both of you said. You both talked about in relationship, looking for somebody to have your heart, looking for somebody to just to be there, to be in relationship. And I think I know the answer to this, but just for conversation's sake, does that come from because of experiences in the past? Does that come from how you were raised? Does that come from low self-esteem? Does that come from lack of things that happened in childhood? Like, where do you think that, for you, if you want to answer, or anybody here, that I just need somebody to be there, I want somebody to be there to feel love? Where did that come from for you?
So I kind of think it's just like an affection kind of thing. I think I just like, just having someone close to me. I think I just like that because I don't know. I guess it just puts like a spark in my life or something. I don't know what it is. I mean, this was before Christ, and obviously that's how I thought about it beforehand. But now with Jesus, I mean, I could see like he's there.
Right.
But beforehand, I always just wanted someone, and I get attached really quickly and way too easily, and I really need to fix that. But I get attached way too easily, and it's bad news bears.
Gotcha.
For me, I think it was rooted in insecurities that stemmed from childhood.
Okay.
My biological dad, he was a drug user. He's no longer with us, and so he wasn't in my life. And so it was very difficult for me to feel like I was worthy of love from a man. And so I was kind of looking for that validation, like in relationships. Like, well, I got him to stay.
Right. Right. Yeah.
I got him to marry me. I was good enough for him.
Yeah.
And I was just basically like, please, just take my heart, And I don't think that it's not that he wasn't a bad person,
right?
But he just wasn't at that stage.
Yeah.
But I was like
feeding our insecurities, feeding our things.
And I didn't know who I was.
Right.
Either.
Yeah.
So it was just I would have took anything.
Gotcha.
Just to be able to say like he picked me.
I get that. Anybody else want to add anything about that before we move to our next subject?
I think me and her have a little bit of different perspectives. Like, I think she was still in the dating to date category when we first started dating versus like me. I take that back. I think it started out as dating to date and then it turned into dating to marry. Just because like after a while, like I realized like she had done so much for me and like changed me around in so many ways. Like from where I was to where I am now is like two different people. And it's hard to see myself being with anybody but the person that helped me out so much.
And that's part of love. Like when we're in relationship, the person that we're in relationship, not that they're changing us, but they're changing us to be better. They're encouraged, like you said you could come in the room and he goes, hey.
Yeah.
Right? Not that he's telling you to sit down and be quiet and shut up, but hey, I know the power that you have, so let's make it mean something when you do speak. And I think that's just part of love and part of something that just goes with that whole relationship thing. Okay, so we've talked about dating to marry, and this is a subject that we're going to talk about that for all of you that can't see on camera, we've had a four-legged friend enter the chat with us. What's his name, Abigail?
Snoopy.
Snoopy has entered the chat with us. Hi, Snoopy.
All hands
He's entered the chat with us.
The fact that he's the color of Snoopy.
Yeah, he totally looks like Snoopy. So we've talked about dating to marriage. Now let's talk about a subject that you don't hear very often anymore, called courting. Courting was really big when I was younger. There's this guy that wrote a book called I Kissed Dating Goodbye, and a lot of people just stopped dating and just were courting. And we have a resident courter in the house, Madison. So tell us your beau's name. Braden. Tell us about you and Braden. How did you get to this courting place? What is courting? How'd you get there?
Okay, so courting is essentially, I'm not the type of person, if God opens my eyes to you and he's like, okay, I want you to be friends with him. I'm like, okay, Lord. When he first entered the room at church, I knew I liked him. And I remember Corey saying, oh my goodness, y'all would be so cute together. I said, no, girl, we're not entertaining that. Because I used to entertain, respectfully, to BC me, like anything that walked in the room. I was like, ooh, no, girl, we're not doing that. So I knew I had to be intentional, and I told God, please make my eyes, take my eyeballs and don't let me see any man besides you. Like, I don't want to look at them anyway. I don't want to entertain, and I want to make sure I've healed. I want to make sure that they've healed. I want to make sure that I've given my fragments back to those people, and I've gotten my fragments back, meaning I was assaulted when I was a kid, so I had a lot of hurt. My dad left. My stepdad left of 10 years. My brother was in and out of the psychiatric ward, so I had a lot of hurt with men, and I wanted to ensure that I didn't bring that into a relationship, because hurt people hurt people. And I knew that with Braden, I had to make sure his heart wasn't a front, because some people, like myself, I used to be one of those people. I was always in church and stuff, but I was never intentional with God.
Right.
And I wanted to make sure my relationship was intentional, it was pure, because like I said, I was not a virgin, or I wasn't pure. And when God cleansed me, I knew I was pure, and I knew that if he died for me, my standards weren't going to be super high, because if they respected me, they would know that it's no issue. Like, you want me to love you like the church? Okay, girl, no issue.
Right.
Like, I shouldn't have to tell you those things.
Right.
So with Braden, I sat down with him one day, and I was like, I think I like you, but I don't know you. And I want to be your friend. Let's be friends. You want to be friends? So my friend Carson gave me his number, and I texted him a flyer that I already had, because, like I said, I'll command a room. Like I said. And I said, hey, can you send me your grandpa's flyer for his church? Like, I want to send it out to the group. And he sent it to me, and I said, what did I say? I said, can you cook? Can you cook? And I started the conversation, and we got to know each other. I said, actually, let's meet for coffee. I want to get to know you. No, where did we meet? Where did our first hang out? I wanted it to be a public place, because, baby, no behind doors. No, not going to do it, because BC me
was all about the behind doors.
Baby. If you know, you know. Okay? So, I guess I'll skip into it, but I think, because it's hard, my brain is going to blank because everybody's looking at me right now. Sorry. Hold on. Let's get there. We went to a Maverick City concert, and we were friends at the time. I said, if we can make it to being friends till then, I said, then I'll entertain the idea of us even dating. But I want to pray. I want you to pray. I want Miss Kathy to know. I want our elders to know. I want them to be praying for our relationship.
Right.
I want you to fast. I want to see what your prayer life is like. And baby, I don't play. What are you doing in your Bible studies?
Love it. She was like, testing.
No, I said, and I want to know too what you do for work, because I'm expensive. I like stuff. And he didn't have no car.
I love it.
He didn't have a car, respectfully. And there's nothing wrong with that. But for me, I need a man that's going to take care of me. Because what I look like, Uber? No, ma'am. And I told him that. I was honest. Honesty is so important.
Right, yeah.
Because I would make up things in my past relationships, and I would settle for everything. So when we went to the Maverick City, and I saw that he opened his heart up to God, it was just the two of us. He could be any way he wanted to. He got us girls saved, didn't have to say anything. He prayed for someone. And if you know Braden, he is a shy person. Like, he is not going to speak up at all. And I was like, okay, you don't have to be a preacher, but you could be a preacher about home, you know what I'm saying? And then we got in the car, he said, may I pray for you?
Wow.
And I said, yes, you can. Okay. I said, but I do have a curfew. I said, we're not fixing to stay out, so you can bring me home. Thank you.
Pray on the way while we drive.
Well, I had my car,
Yeah.
so I drove us home to his house. I dropped him off, and I said, there are a few things that you need to get in order before we date or I even entertain it. I need you to do a Bible study with me. I need to see how you lead me. I need to go in a grocery store with you. Are you going to get on my nerves while we driving? Because I'm being for real.
I love this one.
And I said, you're going to bring me in a parking lot, and you need to show me how you drive. Because in my head, if he can lead, are you calm? Because I get anxiety. My dad, when I was a kid, took me from my house and kidnapped me basically in the car, and I get trauma sometimes in a car. And like I said, I used to be a very nervous person, and I told him, I said, if you can't deal with that, you ain't for me, because if God has that person for me, he would already know what to do.
Right.
And he did. And I was like, okay. We went to a park, and I was like, Braden, I said, what kind of Bible study you got for me today? And he had it laid out, questions for me, scripture. And I was like, okay, Lord, take him out of my heart. Take all the feelings away. I don't want to feel anything for him if he's not for me.
Yeah.
2 months went by. He was persistent. He left my house at 8:30 at night. We do not, the bedroom door stays open, because at my house, my grandparents are very selective.
Yeah.
They don't like anybody at their house, and my room is the only place in the house that we can go to if we want to see each other. His house, nobody's ever home. And my rule is, somebody's got to be home,
Right.
or we're going out in public,
Yeah.
because I know myself, busting it down.
Yeah.
We're not doing that. And
I love it though. It's real.
Yeah.
And I said, I also, every week we need to do Bible studies. If you can't keep up with that, that's the minimum. Okay? Prayer, yes, and you need a car and you need a job. Because what do I look like? I'm not supporting all of us.
Yeah.
No. I prayed and I said, God, if this is for me, provide a car. A church provided a car. A job, one of our friends gave him a full-time job. Now he has a full-time job and a part-time job. And I'm not saying you have to have that, but the way God provided and confirmation. And then I fasted. I was like, God, please, Lord, let this be right. And we started talking on the 1st of October. Our anniversary date is January 11th. And that's 2 ones in my head. So I'm like, it's a double first. Like, it's a start of something new. And I knew that it was going to be right, because I have a note in my phone. It says 3 years ago, God, if he's my husband, he'll ask me with something pink and bumblebees.
Listen,
He said, will you be my girlfriend? It was a pink board, and it was bumblebee confetti. Y'all.
Oh, Jesus.
Yes, I bawled. So don't settle. And courting is essentially being honest with someone and taking your time, because if they're the right person, they're not going to rush it. God did not rush you. He's intentional about everything, and Braden is so intentional. Now, of course, we're not perfect, but I can say that I'm so proud of our relationship. Like, no sex. We don't make out. Like, we'll kiss, but it took us 3 months to kiss.
Yeah.
And for me, that's a big deal, and it didn't lead to anything more. And he just never talked about sex with me or anything to the point where he made me feel pressure, because, like I said, I was assaulted. So things trigger me sometimes, and not because I'm not healed, but little movements will make me question, oh my God, and I'll like freak out. He's like, you're safe, like, it's okay, like, I'm with you. And I've never experienced that. So for someone to genuinely love me for me and not my body, or expect something more, it's a love I've never experienced, and I'm thankful for God, what he'll do for us. But never settle. Or anybody that's watching, if you're wondering what it's like, if it's God's person for you, he'll make it so abundantly clear. And it says, doors that are open for you, let no man shut, and doors that are closed, let no man open. And I know that God is intentional about this relationship, and I'm just excited to see what he'll do.
This girl done preached a whole message. I love it. But I want to say this, because a lot of people may be listening to you and saying, gosh, she's demanding. Like, she needs him to be perfect, and she needs to have him all this. But it's not. It's being, God, I know what I deserve. This is what your word says that I'm worth having. And not just because she's a girl, but for a guy. There are standards for guys to say, I need to know that she will let me lead her. I need to know that she will let me make her feel safe. I need her to know that I'm not perfect and I do fail, but she's going to love me through that as well. And when we begin to operate in relationship out of, I know my worth, and I'm not willing to settle for it, I'll give you some grace and mercy when you don't get it right, because we're not perfect, right? Nobody's at this table is perfect, for real. But when there's this grace in the middle of it, that he knows your intention and she knows the intention, and you're working on it together, it's a beautiful thing that can happen.
Yes.
Brandon and I courted, and he says all the time that I didn't like it, and I did like it, but there was a moment in our relationship that I knew this was the one, and I didn't recognize in my excitement of this is the one, because I'd waited for so long. We've now adjusted the date and the age I was of 30, not 28. Sorry, everybody. That's when we got married, was 31. But
so much hope.
Brittany said that gives her hope. But because I knew he was the one, there was this thing in me of like, what are we waiting for? Let's get on to
Yes.
it. And he wasn't there. And so my frustration of he's kind of almost there, but he's not really there. What's taking so long? And his frustration of I wish he'd just chill out and let me get there. Like we had to have this conversation, and it was intense, and it looked like I wasn't okay, even though I was. And so it's that push and pull of learning each other and learning how to walk through that. That there's an intention. Did you guys do courting, or y'all just went straight into dating? How did y'all do it?
Honestly, I would say that we courted in our relationship.
Okay.
So I feel like our relationship wasn't, we were both like BC, even though I had been a PK for 5 years, grew up in church. I wasn't living like I was in church. I wasn't living like the bride of Christ, like I should have been. And you know, he was going to a Pentecostal church, not really living the life he should have been, you know, just dealing with personal things. And so neither of us were really where we should have been. And we just kind of like threw into a relationship real quick, and we didn't really know each other. Like we did. I grew up around him since I was 5-6 years old, because he was right down the road, mutual, stuff like that. But we didn't know each other. We didn't know how our relationship with God was. And I feel like we courted in a relationship. Because we got to, as our relationship grew, we got to know each other. We got to assess how we were with God. And we were very far.
Yeah.
Very, very, very far. And I'm definitely really grateful how far we've come, like, in our relationship and as people. Because, like, I know, like, y'all have all been talking about, like, growing in God before you're in a relationship, but we've grown in God together in our relationship. We both BC,
which is beautiful. I mean, it's a beautiful thing.
Oh yeah, and like this past, I would really say we really pressed in maybe about this past year and a half, of really being like, okay, God is the number one priority. We need to act like the bride of Christ. You know, and through that we've been able to grow and hold each other accountable, just through, because we'll have one another, accountability partners. And we both had that mindset of God is first. If he is not going to be the center of a relationship, it needs to end.
Yeah.
And we got to the point to where we were about to break up, because we were like, this is not giving bride of Christ. This is not giving saved, set free, forgiven. Like, it's just not, we're not acting right. And so it really came down to, if we're not going to get right, we need to break up. And that's when it switched. Like, it was just like, well, so I would say really the confirmation for me on where that happened, Zachary, like, if you know our relationship, he always gets me flowers. That's like one of my biggest things. My love language is gifts. And he always gets me flowers, usually red or pink roses. And around the time when we were struggling with that, about to break up, because we wanted purity, stuff like that, he brings me white flowers. And I was like, I couldn't help but cry. Like, I could even cry about it now. But because like white purity.
Yeah.
And that was right when we were going through that. And he brings me white flowers. And then literally from there, it was just like confirmation all the way. Lives turned around. Like, we took my senior trip to the ramp. Like we just had our priorities set. Have to be in church. We always pray together at night. Worship is a big thing. And it was just like, we worked together to build how we should be, to act. You know, like that's the, I don't know. Sorry,
I think
you became like
yes.
But
And
that's
like,
beautiful, because you know, coming from where you were together to where you are, you know his struggles, you know his weaknesses. And so rather than like Madison, him having to figure out, well, what triggers her? What is she going through? How does she respond? You kind of already know. And so you know, okay, I can tell when Zach's acting a certain way. This is how I need to respond. And I think that's beautiful. And it's different for everybody. It's in different areas and different ways for everybody in that relationship. to learn how to walk through that and to go through that. But I think it's beautiful. I don't know. I think that courting is something that we have forgotten, but I think it's in a way it's very vital of knowing who you're in relationship with, whether that comes after you're already in a relationship or before, but knowing who you're in relationship with, being intentional with finding them out, and not just doing let's go on a date on Friday night because everybody else is doing a date on Friday night, right? Not let's just get her Valentine's Day flowers because it's Valentine's, but like showing love and learning their love language and practicality throughout Monday through Thursday or Sunday or whatever day, just being intentional in the middle of that. Yes, go ahead.
I know it seemed like a lot of the things I was demanding, but for me, I had never been with a man who made me feel like those were not a big issue at all. And for him, he already knew that those were things he needed to acquire, and I thought that for me, praying for him, I wanted what was best for him because I knew God had those things in store for him. And sometimes when you don't, not necessarily value yourself when you're not surrounded with those like-minded individuals, it's so great to encourage each other in relationship. So please don't think that like I never thought he wasn't good enough.
Right.
But I knew that God had so much more for him, not in a potential sense, but I knew that it was in store for him. And I feel like when you're in a relationship, you need to encourage and push them towards what God has for them and never settle, because if you do settle, you're falling back. Like I settled so before, and I was like, why would I do that? Let me call him higher, because that's what you're supposed to do.
Right. Got it.
Was it more of like you were testing him almost? Like the things that you were like saying, like, oh, well, I'm this, like, like, this is what's, like, I'm in my life, this is messed up, this is messed up, this is messed up. Like, are you sure you're okay with that? Like, you're trying to, like, quiz him to see, like, if you show him all your bad features, like, see if he'll run away.
Yeah, because every man in my life has always walked away. And I'm not saying in a sense of, I wanted to show him all my ugly and see if that was good enough. I knew it was good enough because God says it is, but I wanted to make sure he was the right person that could. I always tell him, you need to be right with God because you're not going to be able to know how to handle my heart, because I'm a sensitive person. And if you're not in your word, you're not going to know how to handle me. You know what I mean?
And I don't, and correct me, but I don't think that you were just blatantly crazy just to be crazy, right?
Yeah.
Like we had the conversation of, listen, I got trauma. Let's talk about the trauma rather than just being crazy and saying, hey buddy, how'd that go? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, but I think it's being vulnerable of showing all that ugly to test. Hey, can you go through this?
It was more so like we'd have a conversation about something, and I realized I had said something, and I was like, would you mind if I share this with you? Do you have time for that? And he was like, of course. And it was being vulnerable, because I feel like if you can't be 100% yourself with that person, the good, the bad, the ugly, the in between, it's like, is it a genuine relationship? And I wanted to make sure our relationship was genuine. And it's kind of like what we're doing. Like, you know how you asked me that question? He would kind of essentially do the same, and I would say, and I was like, have you ever gone through anything? Like, and he's such an understanding and like patient person, and he teaches me to be slow to speak and quick to listen, because girl, I'm a
command the room, girl. Tucker and Taylor, I mean, because you guys are the youngest here sitting in, and you're just kind of walking in this. Do you guys think that you've had that in your moment where, because you asked that question, do you demand things of him, or the? I mean, I know your story, so I don't want you to share anything that you're not comfortable with.
I'll go first.
Guard is hard. Guard is hard. Guard is hard.
I got you, baby. So when we first started talking or whatever, he came over to my house like one of the first times we hung out. Now, mind you, I'm an awkward person. So when I quite literally tell you, he walks into my room, met my parents or whatever, and I'm like sitting there. Well, my room's like kind of spread out. My bed's over there, my vanity's all the way over here. When I tell you, baby, I did not go on the bed at all. I sat over there in the vanity, and he sat at the edge of the bed. And I was like, okay, listen. I was like, I ain't doing this, I ain't doing that, I ain't doing this, I ain't doing that. And I laid it all out for him. And he asked me to prom right before he left for a vacation, and it was after a basketball game. Now, I walk over there, he's like, hey, I need to show you something. I said, show me something. What do you mean, show me something?
Hold up, buddy.
So he walks into his car, I was like, oh, Lord. But I'm like, he's in the middle of the parking lot, it's like black, so many cars around, and there's a softball game going on. He pulls out the poster, it's like prom, question mark, he has cookies, flowers, stuffed animals and stuff. Everybody's like, oh. I said, okay.
Keep
I
in mind
guess
when
so.
she gets nervous, she gets like really sweaty. So like, no,
She's like, cut that out.
I think we need to get the good parts. Like no, like while I'm asking her, I see like sweat.
So then my mom pulls up to pick me up because it's cold outside, it's dark, I'm ready to go to bed.
And she's sweating.
Yeah, she's like,
I got this part. I got
no,
this.
I got it. So there's a line of cars behind my mom's car. He like parks over to the end because like there's no parking. Well, I get in the car, I put everything in the car, my mom's like rolls down the window, hey son, or like hey Tucker, something like that. And she's like, now listen, I don't want no hanky panky with you. And that's her words. And mind you, there is quite literally like a line of cars. She's like having a like conversation with him, and he's like, yes ma'am, yes ma'am, yes ma'am.
But you laid it out there. You started the beginning of that relationship of going, these are just like you. Hey, these are my traumas, but hey, this is what I'm not willing to do. This is not what I'm compromising on. This is what I'm willing to. And I think we need to start. I think we need to be honest.
Yes.
The guys also too. So tell us your end of it, Tucker.
So it was interesting. Like she said, like first time I came over, she was like crazy nervous, and like I'm saying like sweat like dripping
It's
down.
not that serious.
When she laid out the, hey, this is what I'm not going to do, what was this before Jesus? Like, where were we at?
This
How
was
did
BC.
how did you respond to that?
So and I tell
As a teenage boy, like,
so
how was you doing?
I want to give a little backstory
Don't
relationship.
hit the table.
I mean,
Chill out.
that's okay. So I want to give a little backstory relationship, like just like 5-minute ordeal, like because I feel like I'm not gonna hide anything that happened in our relationship. Our relationship started off with a bet, and it was a bet that I could not sleep with her within a 2-month time period.
$20, mind you.
$20.
I was like, that's all I'm worth.
Let me say this first. This is real. Like,
Mhm.
your generation, this is real. This is I don't want you guys to feel ashamed about that in the sense of, because if more people in your generation were honest, you're a teenage boy. We all know about hormones. We know how things work.
Yeah.
We know what's going on in life. And so this is one of the reasons I wanted to have you guys here, not to tell your story, but I want the reality of this is what your generation deals with. That there are pressures and things happening around you that can affect you negatively or positively, and you have turned it to positively. And so that's why I wanted to have you here. But I want you to tell this story if you're comfortable.
So I made a bet that I could not sleep with her within 2 months. That very night, I went and added her, and at the time, she was talking to one of my friends. Like, she was kind of not dating, and come like a week later, they were actually told they couldn't date because his parents had said that she was too young for him.
Right.
And I think that was also God kind of laying things out in her life. But I'm just like having a casual conversation with my friend about the bet, and then I didn't know that he was talking to her because he kept quiet about it. So he goes back straight to her and was like, hey, I want to let you know Tucker has a bet out that he can't sleep with you for $20. And then she's like, okay. And basically in the back of her head, she's like, I'll see you when I believe it. Like, I just didn't think that someone could go to that because she did have God in her life.
Yeah.
So it comes time, we start like kind of texting
Snapping.
and whatnot. And then I'm just so convicted and like I feel horrible, and I had to come clean. I was like, look, it's true. Like I can't sit here and like lie to you. If this causes you to leave, so be it. But like I don't want to like be dishonest with you. So
Good
then
for you.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Stop. Stay there. What was your thinking in the middle of this? Like, rationally, like, honest, and like, where were you at in the middle of this?
When he finally came clean, I'm gonna be vulnerable. I quite literally broke down.
Yeah.
Like, I was like so like heartbroken in the process of it, because I'm like, why am I not like good enough just for me to like be here? Like, why can you just not like me and then have a relationship with me, but you want to sleep with me?
Okay, so that's honest. Like,
Yeah.
you forgave because God, but beyond
I did
that.
not want to.
Okay.
We had so much at the beginning of our relationship that happened. Like, it went on from March. We started dating in February. It went on from March to July. That was like the whole like, holy crap, what am I doing? Like, please just like, no. And I did all these things that I wanted to do to push him out of my life. Like I would, would I do that? Like I would be rude. I would like say, no, you're not gonna like me because of this. I didn't even like break down my whole backstory for him till like.
So you put up these walls, these
like till
defenses,
November.
yeah.
Like I have put up these like whole walls around me, and I'm like, you're not coming in. Like stay on your side. I stay on my side. Let's just build an ocean in between.
Yeah. But you still was willing to be in the relationship, but we're gonna do it with walls.
Yes, because I was like, I mean, you're kind of cool. I mean, whatever. So, like, I mean, I liked him, but it wasn't like I want you in my life because I need you in my life. Like, it was like...
It's kind of like Landon said, just to have somebody there.
Yeah, like,
right?
I get excited when I have somebody in my life because, like, if something exciting happens, like, OMG, like, look at this, like, look at that, like anything that, like, happens, I, like, run and tell the people that I'm, like, super close to. So, I mean... The only reason he's even still in my life is because Jesus said to forgive.
Yeah. And so you confess, she forgives. What makes you stay around?
Okay, so after what was I getting at?
That's what you were.
Yeah, after the bet, I told her about it, and then after that, we come to the consensus, and we agreed that we were gonna stay with each other, but she didn't trust me at all, and that was understandable.
Yeah.
But come a couple weeks later, her mom finds out about the bet, and this is what I said earlier at the beginning. She tells me, like, basically, I'm gonna sum it up, just like stay away from my daughter and like don't come back. And then I start freaking out, and for like I was always like tough guy, you're not supposed to cry, and for like the first time ever, I broke down and started crying because like the first girl I ever actually liked. Like, and I felt like it was just all ripped away from me because of my stupid decision. So I sent her the longest message I've ever typed out. You had to click a link to access it.
Technology's beautiful.
I'm not joking. You had to click an arrow to access the text message. And then after half an hour when she finished reading the message, basically told her to stay away. And then after the message, she says that I could come to church with them, and that is the only place I could go.
Smart mama.
So the only way I could see the girl that I started to like is if I went to church. So
had you ever been in church at this point? Done church?
A handful of times. My mom's a believer. She would go every now and then with Mother's Day, some different holidays and whatnot, but never consistent. And it was always like, oh, come on, lunch is in 20
Yeah,
minutes.
right. That's the thing to do. Gotcha.
So this was like, and this church was completely different from any other church I'd ever
Shout
been
out to Revival Temple.
Yeah, shout out to
Revival
But the pastor just preached a message, and it just made me like think a lot. And I think the main part of the message was on forgiveness. So I remember that that helped a little bit of everybody there that night. Mitchell, Mitchell, he didn't say anything to me, but it was one of those like.
Which is the stepdad, Mitchell was like
yeah.
Stepdad, yeah.
He didn't say anything to me, so it wasn't like he scolded me when I got there. It was like
I see you, son.
I see you. And then afterwards, they hadn't spoken in one word to me the entire time I was there. And then we walked out of the building, and I'm thinking I messed up. I'm not gonna and like tears start building up, and I'm just thinking like this is the last time I'm gonna see her. And then her mom goes, "See you next Sunday." And then I was just like beyond happy. Like I got in my car. And then come like the next day, I had a birthday party for my grandma at my house, and then she said that Taylor could go to it, so she was coming over to my house and meeting my parents for the first time, and then also meeting my grandparents, and she felt like everything was kind of caving in, but it worked out. But yeah, that's kind of our story. I mean,
so
there's some
week
stuff
after
in between.
week we're going through church, and it's just God begins to change your life radically.
God,
right?
Somewhere along that path, that vacation that she was talking about, I had cheated on her on the vacation, and it was just like that was what I was used to. Like it was on a cruise, and it was because like I was on a cruise that I did it. It was just that was just typical like Tucker. I mean, every cruise I'd ever been on, I'd done it, and then I was like, well, it's not like any different. Like we're not technically dating, we're talking. It's not. And I was just like in my head, and then I ended up doing that, and then some advice that my brother had left me. This stuck with me when me and Taylor were having that conversation where she was like, I don't want this, I want this, I want this. My brother had told me, he said, when a girl says that she's waiting until marriage, she never means it. So the bad advice in this situation had actually turned into, I'm not going to say it was good advice, but like the bad advice helped me to stay in a relationship, and it turned it good.
Gotcha.
Because if it weren't for that advice, I probably would have been like, man, I can't be in a relationship without that.
Right.
But it was because of that advice, and then obviously because of the Lord. But
well, I think that's great, because the transition that I want to go from here is, let's talk about temptation. If we're going to be real, let's talk about temptation in your generation and in relationship in general. Anybody want to start? I mean,
I
just
never
want-
really.
No,
Sorry.
Yeah.
No, it's very quick. I just want to point out, because temptation has a like a cloud over it, where it's like temptation is bad. I just want to point out Jesus was tempted.
Yeah.
And temptation is not a sin, because Jesus remained without sin, but he was tempted.
Mm-hmm.
So there's this like stigma where it's like, oh, I was tempted by that, I'm bad.
Right.
We're created, male and female, and they attract.
Yeah.
So it's normal. Like we talked about hormones, we talked about, things, and I think that, that's just what I wanted to say, is that if you're tempted by something, it's not a bad thing. Like,
I love that you said that. I've never heard anybody say it that way.
Yeah.
Like, we all talk and we know that Jesus was tempted, and we all have been tempted, but it's that act of, like, Eve was tempted, but it wasn't until she came into agreement and acted upon it that it became her sin.
There's actually a verse that I found that I want to share. It's Galatians 5:1. It says, "Stand fast, therefore, in the liberty by which Christ has made us free, and do not be entangled again with a yoke of bondage." And I really like that, because I like how the passage kind of talks about temptation, but don't like indulge in it and don't engage in it.
No, I definitely kind of understand
Yeah.
what you're saying, because there's also a scripture, and I don't know the address.
It's okay.
I might have it.
I think it's in James, but it's talking about when there's desire, and desire runs away, and it gives birth to sin, and then eventually sin gives birth to death. So, like, when you initially have that first, like, temptation, just run away from it.
Right.
Like, just be like, no, I'm gonna take a walk outside, or I'm gonna go do something different. Because it is not a sin to be tempted, but when that desire takes root, it gives birth to the sin.
Well, Brandon and I talked a little bit this week. We did a Bible study about when Jesus got baptized, the Holy Spirit rested on him, and then he went into the wilderness, is when his temptation began. And I think sometimes when God is wanting to do something in our life, and and it's not in every aspect, but I think for believers, often we'll see when God is wanting to do something in our life, the Holy Spirit is really activated in our life. We're kind of pushing towards the Holy Spirit, that we'll begin to see this intensification of temptation coming. Like Abigail and Zach, like, you guys know you're getting married, but we know we got 2 years before that's happening, or a year and a half before that's happening, and there's some things that we need to do. But the enemy's like, oh yeah, well, let's turn up that
and he's like, oh,
that
you're
stove.
committed.
Really, you're committed. Let's get there.
Like,
Sorry. You go first.
okay. And I feel like with temptation, it's a test to your faith. Like, it is, like, either, like, it's like the devil saying, okay, yeah, I know you follow God, but how well do you follow him? How much faith do you have that he's going to set you free from this, even if you do fall into it? But I feel like temptation, it really is a test to see how much and how truly you are, like, devoted, and how much you want to inspire to be like Jesus like Jesus is, and like temptation is so easy, especially like what you're saying, like I'm committed, I'm planning my wedding, it's a year and a half, you know what I mean, and I know I'm locked in per se, but still not there yet. You know, and that's
Right.
like temptation falls in so easy simply because of the idea of like commitment or I mean, it's gonna happen one day, so it's okay.
Right.
Same thing that's gonna happen when you do get married.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. You're
But
committed to
you're
each other, so
but you're
what's
not in
just a
that
piece of paper
covenant.
kind of thing. Yeah.
That God ordained covenant.
And I just want to say too, when it comes to temptation, it's never like, okay, the devil never comes up to you with something big. It's always the smallest little compromise. Like in y'all's case, close the door. Who's gonna notice that you closed the door? You guys didn't do anything last time, so he's never gonna be like, for instance, for an example, if I'm hard for money, he's never gonna be like, hey, Brittany, go rob a bank.
Right.
He's never gonna present me with something big because like I'm gonna be like, oh, absolutely not. But if I'm at Brooke's house and she's got $40 hanging out of her purse, he might be like, oh, she's in the other room. She's got two, so just grab one.
Yeah.
She'll just think it fell out of her purse. Like it's always the smallest thing. Now the fact that I was tempted to take the money, not sin. If I take the money, sin.
Right.
So it's acting on the temptation.
Yeah, and go ahead. In James 1.
Girls,
Was that where
I got my address.
Do you want to read it? Well, in James 1, it says, count it all joy for when you fall into diverse temptations, knowing that that's the trying of your faith working patience.
Yes, ma'am.
And you said that, Abigail, like it's a test of our faith, of are you committed to this? Are you got these boundaries? And that's one thing we're going to talk about, because Taylor, we were talking earlier, is you've set these boundaries, you've set these accountabilities in your life, you've set these things. Are you really sticking to those? Are you really pressed into those? When Brandon and I got married, before we married, 29, 28, 29, however old we were, when we were dating, when we first started dating, because of the one relationship that I had been in, there were things that had happened. Like, while I was still a virgin, there were still boundaries that we tested. Because I had been like Taylor and said, I'm not doing this, and this. And throughout the 4 years, there were things that I was saying, oh, we can compromise on the little things. We can do this, we can do that. And so I knew within myself, like if he kissed me, that I wasn't going to be able to stop at kissing. Like that's just where we were. And because from 19 to 29, I had never been kissed, like
She was like party with
we
Cardi.
were ready. You know what I'm saying? And we was ready to go. And so when we were dating, I told him, hey, we're going to date. I'm like, but you can't kiss me until I'm ready. And he was like, okay. And I wish he had a mic so he could talk his side of that. But it was a thing of, are you going to respect me? Of me saying we're not going to kiss until I tell you. And I remember the day we were several months into dating where I was living with my grandma at the time. We were in the living room watching a movie. He was fixing to leave. And at that moment, I finally felt like, okay, we can do this. This is something we do. And so I remember telling him, listen, I'm not telling you have to kiss me now, but I'm telling you I'm okay if you kiss me now. And because he respected me those months, to get myself to that point, like I grew in affection for him. I grew in respect for him in that aspect, because I knew a temptation at that moment was like, I'm not going to be able to control this sucker. This is not going to go well. And I knew I got all these years invested. People know me to be this person that loves the Lord, that's waiting for the right one. And I had the thought about me of, if I open the door, I'm ruining all of that. And he respected that aspect for me. With you guys with courting, did you guys set boundaries? How did that work?
Yeah, we have boundaries like this per se. We're the only ones in our family that do, I don't even know, Christian relationship. But there's a difference between worldly, lukewarm Christian relationship and godly. Because lukewarm, you're testing the boundaries and doing everything you can not to. And I said, look, little boy.
Well, like come right up to the
yes.
Right?
I said, you're a man. I said, I'm a woman. I said, we have these desires. I said, I've been doing this since I was 7 years old. I have more desire. He's only ever been with one person. And for me, because I thought that was how you love someone.
Gotcha.
So we have to have boundaries. He says, let's go take a walk. Because I'm more so the person that wants to initiate it. He's like, Maddie, let's go take a walk. I'm like, okay. And there's sometimes where he'll catch it before it happens. Like he knows like certain little tendencies I have. And he'll be like, let's go. Especially when, you're a female, you have like certain, I'm sorry guys, this is kind of personal. But it's like when you're on, I have PCOS, so I have more testosterone, so it makes that drive go up more.
Right.
So when I'm around, a certain time of the month, it makes it go up more. And he's like, okay, let's do things more in public
Right.
because I know you're more prone to wanting, your mind. He's like, let's not even entertain that.
That's beautiful.
That is.
Yeah.
He knows that about you.
Yeah, he's
Yeah,
like,
kudos.
Go ahead, Brady.
I know this would be him. He's such a humble person.
But like, when have you ever heard anybody else say that?
Yeah.
Like, I've never heard, and I can't speak for you guys, but as a girl, as a woman, never have heard that.
Well, he has
He's
only
so
girls.
aware. Yeah, that's so cool.
And I never had someone. I've only ever lived with the guys. I mean, I have my mom, but my mom respectfully was never. She was always in the picture, but I live with my grandma, so there's different. That's another story for another day. But Braden is very intentional with that because his isn't more so sex. It's more so he's a physical touch person, and he never takes it more so. But he can sometimes be like a little all over me, and I get overstimulated.
Gotcha.
And it's more so not. It doesn't make me want sex. It's more so along the lines of like, I feel I'm triggered.
That trauma response.
But I need to make sure that he still feels loved.
Right.
So, and we talk about, okay, my boundary is, well, you can hold my hand, but if we're in the bed, we're not staying in my room for more than an hour because I know that you're gonna want to go into that mindset. So let's go in the living room. Let's go cook something.
Right.
We're not allowed in the living room because that's where my grandpa sleeps. So if we go to his house, his family doesn't care, and I have a rule. No spending the night whatsoever. Date nights are required twice a week because I feel like you need to connect with each other. We also do accountability. Hey, how are you doing with things? Are you in your word? Because he can tell me, but I can see it in your fruit.
Right. That's on our list to talk about next is accountability.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're good. You're good.
And I always make sure if we're feeling a type of way, like with anger, I'm like, yeah, you have righteous anger, but why don't you like cool? He doesn't have anger. It's me. And he's so patient with me, and I'm like, thank you, Lord, for him, because he really teaches me to like think about things, because he's like, this is his wording. Okay. And I'm like, you're not giving me more. He's like, I'm not adding to that fire. And I'm like,
gotta love it.
I'm like, why?
Braden, I am a fan.
I have never met Braden, but I can't wait.
Oh,
He's so cute. Like he's a redhead. He has freckles, and he is like, he's like a puppy dog. Like when he smiles, he goes, and he's so bashful when he turns like a tomato.
So let's hear from you guys. Let's talk about temptation.
Yes.
What's the word? There's a word that expectations, I guess, from your and you've already kind of talked a little bit about with y'all's situation, and Dylan, you're kind of y'all. I don't know why. Maybe that's what the Lord calls you. That's always my go-to when I call people the wrong name.
You never know. My name actually could be Dylan.
There you go. So what on the guys' end? Let's talk about temptation in that aspect.
First,
Tucker.
Yeah. I mean, there's temptation all around us. I think that she helped me heal through a lot of my temptation, and not just like the whole wanting to have a relationship with sex and whatnot. Like it didn't just help me heal through that. Like my other addictions, like I stopped vaping. I think like 8-9 months ago, and
Maybe like 3 months in, 2 months in, because I was sorry.
No.
And I had done that for about 2 or 3 years before, and then it had quit during that time, and I just think that there was a lot of temptation in our relationship, and there's like so many things like I wanted to do, but knowing now it was the Lord, but like even put like BC Tucker, there was this voice in my head like telling me like, don't touch that girl, like she's mine. And then it's just like it would stop me from doing things that I normally would have done, and it was hard sometimes but it was like a stern like
Holy
you
Spirit.
aren't allowed
Beautiful.
you aren't allowed to touch this girl.
But that's beautiful though, because one, I think it comes from your mom and your stepdad praying over you and praying over your kids to protect them. No, that's beautiful.
I love it.
I mean, that is absolutely beautiful that even before you had that full relationship with the Holy Spirit, he was already letting you know her worth and letting you know her value. Oh, Taylor, I can't look at you because now
and I just want to it gives a testament to your reverence for the Holy Spirit, because to protect what he told you to protect, because in reality, when you have a godly relationship, it is the man's job to protect the girl. And so the fact that you reverenced what he was telling you and didn't, it immediately shut everything else down. You're like, she's not even mine to touch yet.
not even that those temptations probably always went away, but just the fact that you had that mindset to be there at times.
It was those temptations. It was like sexual temptations, and it helped me through these things. But the one thing I had to work through on my own is prioritizing what to protect. Because as a man, it is our job to protect, and we want to be protectors. So when someone says something to her that's insulting to her or says something about her, my immediate response is I have to protect her. I'm going to whoop tail and take names.
Yeah.
But and sometimes it's her, sometimes it's God just grabbed me by the shirt collar and calm down.
Right.
But a lot of it is why I say prioritizing what to protect is I think sometimes I'm trying to protect her image and her pride. I'm here to protect her if harm were to come to her, not words. Words are completely different, and that's protecting her pride, and that's not what we should be protecting.
Gotcha.
There's a thing nowadays, where someone will say something someone said my boyfriend was fruity. I say, yeah, girl, he's filled with the fruits of the spirit. Okay. And it's taking that negative into a positive, and people will look at you and be like, there's something different about him.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because I used to have terrible anger myself. So when it comes to her, I know you love her, but also uplift her in that moment. Because in a sense, when you're getting even with that person, it does nothing. But you're turning around, you're giving her a compliment.
So I was gonna talk about my side with them where it comes to temptation and everything. So obviously I'm single and I don't have anyone. But back to what we were saying about people can have more than just a relationship with someone, because friends can be they were saying how friends can have a stronger bondage than brotherhood. Right. And I actually have that of my own. Bryce, I wish if he was here, but I had my own struggles and he had his own struggles, and we kind of helped each other through it. And we kind of talk to each other about it, and we kind of help each other get through it. And then also, whenever I started going to church and everything, I was still kind of doing it, but then I started feeling that conviction. I started realizing, wait, hold on, this is actually wrong. And then I started reading some Bible verses or whatnot, and then it told me to forgive people as well. So I forgave the people who got me into doing that. But then, I was just so confused about the factor of well, hold on, if I have to forgive them, I also have to tell them why it's wrong and everything. And they weren't really listening on why it's wrong. And then I was doing some more reading, and it said how even after you forgive someone, forgive them. It says to forgive them and move on, but it says don't put that evil back into your life.
Right.
So I had to separate myself from everyone that did that, and that's actually how I found the group that I did today. That's how I started going to church. I found Abby, I found Jacob, I found Zach, I even got closer with Bryce and everything after that, and we've both been taking accountability. That's another thing.
Yeah.
And we've both been taking accountability on how we've been doing whatever temptation or any addiction that we've had, and we've kind of just turned it and reverted it into Christ. And we're actually both accountability partners.
I want to talk about that because that's our next thing. What are your accountability? What does that look like for y'all? Your accountability structure. Is there a structure to it?
Like how we talk?
Yeah, like.
So we kind of so it first started after we went to the gym together for the first time. We went to the gym because that's what I started to do so I can move my mind away from any evil that comes after me. So we were in the gym, and after we got done, he texted me. He was like, "Hey, could you be my accountability partner?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course," or whatever. Of course. I was like, "I'll even tell you about any struggles that I have, school or anything. If there's anything," he would tell me if he relapsed or anything. I'd tell him if I did. He would come for me. I'd cover him. We're like brotherhood.
Just having that open conversation at any time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, got you. Abigail, do y'all do accountability, or do you have an accountability partner?
Accountability is one of my biggest things, especially in my relationship. Not even just in like the sexual way, but even like, spiritually with God. Because as I was saying, like, we have like, in the time that we've been together, we have been each other's like building blocks and helping our relationship with God grow, and just holding each other accountable, like how we're feeling in our relationship. Like, hey, like, how are you doing? How are you feeling? Or do you need anything from me? How can I help you? Like how can I help you this week? Or like, is there anything that we need to address? And we would do it at like maybe every other week we FaceTime every night. And so before bed, just like, hey, how do you feel in our relationship? Do you need anything from me? Do you think there's anything that we need to talk about, anything we need to address? And I feel like that's one of the main things that really kept our relationship just being like open and honest with each other on like what we need, especially even on a spiritual level of, hey, I need you to pray for me this week. I need you to keep me covered. I've been really stressed. Hey, can we just sit and like worship together? I just feel that I need that connection.
Yeah.
Or Zachary, he is a physical touch person. That's like his love language. And like when it comes to like Christian dating, that can get really, really foggy.
Right.
Because affection can turn into
passion.
Yeah, it can turn into sexual immorality. That's what we're gonna call it. And then that's where like physical accountability really comes in. Like for us, the door stays open, and the only time we're in my room is if I'm cleaning or I'm doing his eyebrows. But like we stay in the living room. We are not home by ourselves ever. At his house, we do not go in his room. We stay in the living room because physical touch can turn into that really quick, and to have just being held accountable of there's somebody else in the room is the biggest thing. Like if we know, say my mom's leaving, we'll get my mom to come over here, or we'll go down to her house, or if we we want to be together, we'll go to his house if his mom's there. But it's just really holding each other accountable to not fall into temptation, because when you're by yourself, even if it's in a room with an open door, temptation comes in so quick, and then you can fall so easily because you don't have that third person of accountability to make sure you're not going to fall into that. And just like, and that's also like not letting your good be evil spoken of. That's one thing that Mama has really taught me. Even if we don't do anything, that's so quick somebody be like, they were doing this in the house because nobody was there. Even if it didn't happen, it could happen.
There's a whole verse in the Bible
quick.
talks about like avoiding the appearance of evil. Brandon, the other night we were talking at a Bible study, and say like me and Brittany are somewhere and she's drinking, but I don't drink, and those people know that I don't drink. Brittany's got to go to the bathroom, and I say, hey, here, I'm going to hold your beer for you. But somebody that I've been talking to, or somebody passes our table at the thing and knows Brooke actively does not drink. She talks about not drinking or anything, but there's a beer at her counter. She's holding it. Instantly, that witness is broken. Not that drinking is a sin, or not that being in that place is a sin, but it's just the fact of, you know me to be something that right now I'm not showing you I am. And does anybody have accountability outside of your relationships? You got people that can walk up and be like, yo, tell me what you did this weekend. Where you going? You got to be accountable where you're going.
Our stepdad actually keeps me pretty accountable.
Your stepdad and your mom? That's good.
I would say, like, I never, and it's just because I never went to church. I never had an accountability partner. I don't have anybody in my family to go to, and I don't really, I let go of most of my friends that I would have gone to. Because they didn't know the Lord, and like you said,
they're gonna hold you accountable, but probably to the wrong things.
I'm not gonna hold a beer for somebody when I don't do that. Same situation. But her stepdad has actually kept me pretty accountable in a couple things.
Or my aunt.
Yeah, her aunt too.
Hey, Michelle, if you're watching this.
He's out.
Oh, me?
Yeah, you looked at her and like, y'all had this thing happen here.
Because, oh my gosh. So today, actually, Braden and I don't know why we thought it was genuinely and pure intention, okay, guys? In my head, in his head. Okay, it was after Christmas, and we're like, we love the mountains. Why don't we go and invite our friends? I got a non-refundable room, 2 beds, 2 separate rooms. Like, it's like a bed. No, it's not. It's in the same room. I lied. Okay? It was 2 separate beds. I'm like, okay, the girls can sleep in a room. I'm in the bed. The guys, like, I know myself. Like, I'm not going to do that. Well, 2 of our friends backed out. So I texted 2 more friends. They couldn't come. So I'm like, we're just going to go. Like, my intentions are good. Like, let's go. Like, we're going to get in our word on the mountain. Like, and then Brittany's,
Brittany like, let me tell you
real
real
quick. I was like, I love you, friend, but
shoot.
Mama Brittany's like, let's have a
And
conversation.
shoot, we were at church and something that stuck out to me. I waited to the end of service and I said, hey, it was Corey, Brittany, and I had already talked to Lauren about it. And we came up with this plan. We're going to FaceTime the entire night. Girl, bye. Be so for real. Be so
real quick, you could be like, sorry, we don't have service.
We don't have service.
My phone died.
That
There's
mountain
no
made my phone.
Like, I dropped my phone off a mountain. Like, no, ma'am.
So
No,
she
ma'am.
was like, y'all pursued each other so long. Why would you? And she said it would be just like the devil to give you this. She said God will always reward you, but also give you the money back. Because, like I said, it was non-refundable. And we were leaving today. And you also asked me to do the podcast today. And I was like, God, I know this is from you. And all week I've had a terrible week. And I know that's just the enemy because I'm doing what God has called me to do. And I know in our relationship we're going to grow stronger because of this. But like I said, I don't have anybody in my family. And they are my family I choose. So I love that. When she said that, I sat in my car and I cried. Because God's plan and God calls for us. Sometimes it's painful. I ain't even lie. But it's also His intention is so much better for us, and I know that because if it was me choosing a man, I wouldn't have chosen Brayden. And for accountability, I have this text message, and it just goes to show like his personality and like the accountability. This is so cringy, but it's okay. He said, "Good morning, honey. I hope you have an absolute blessed, amazing day. I love you. And please make sure you get in your word this morning. And how did you sleep?" And he sends me that most morning, and then we'll talk about it on our way to work. And I encouraged him, because he was waking up at like 6 to go to his job. I said, "You could wake up earlier." I said, "To get in your word." I said, "What are y'all doing on your way up there?" He was like, "We listen to worship music." I said, "Talk with the guys about it." And one of their guy friends actually, you know who I'm talking about, Troy.
Yeah.
He's actually telling people about God now.
Awesome.
And I think they're at Popeyes or somewhere.
That's cool.
And it was a pamphlet, and this guy was asking about God. And I was like, planting seeds, even if you're in a relationship, is so important. So when Brittany planted that seed of, we would work so hard, even though it was innocent, there was still an ulterior motive from the devil. And if you actually look at Tennessee, there was a flood that just happened on where we were going to be.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so God's protection was on that. And I know something always good is going to come out of it because His way is better. But it was very painful. And I think not many people realize, like, in a relationship, you're going to choose things that not many people understand. Because my family was like, "Girl, what's wrong with you? Like, why aren't you going?" And his family was the same. And
like, you already paid for it. You can go.
Exactly. And when you're hearing that, it's like, where's the peace in it?
Yeah.
And when my friend calls you higher, that's why it's so important to who you surround yourself with. And she made me sit and think about it. I was like, thank goodness.
Yeah.
Because if you wouldn't have said that, not that I didn't think what I was doing was going to lead me to temptation, but how, when I got there, what was my mindset going to be?
And who's to know? Like, you could have went on this trip and nothing happened. It'd been awesome, wonderful. But sometimes it's like, why put ourselves in that situation?
But if God's hand is not in it,
it's not blessed by Him.
Right.
Exactly.
Right,
So everything would have went wrong.
Yeah.
You know, that's what I told her too. I'm like, girl, for all you know, you go on that trip, you got a flat tire. You get to the hotel, the room ain't clean. Like everything that could have went right if God was in it is gonna go wrong. And I just wanted to say, Maddie, again, just a testimony to you guys. I'm very big on obedience or like reverence because it speaks to the testament of your relationship with God. It really does, because you decided to honor it. And if you'd have went on that trip, again, nothing could have happened or something could have happened. However, either way, you didn't store up anything for yourself on that trip. No. But the fact that you chose to be here today and minister and share what God has done for you in your relationship, girl, you're storing up treasures in heaven right now.
Yeah.
Like, this has an effect on eternity. And, you know, like, you might not get that $700 back in this life, but you will get it back in eternity. And so I'm very proud of you because
Money comes
you
back.
can either receive counsel and honor it, like you said, it's hard,
Right.
but or you can just be like, you don't know what you're talking about, and then like have to learn the hard way.
Mm-hmm.
And so that again just speaks depths to your relationship with God, because you said before, you taking control. I'm gonna do what I want to
No,
do.
literally.
Yeah.
I
You
was
know?
like, no.
And you didn't,
Turn
and
the
you know, you
corner.
could see it in her eyes. Like when she asked me, she was like, "What do you think?" And I literally looked at her. I was like, "Friend, we could talk about hard stuff." And she
Yeah.
was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "You can't go.
Mm,
Like, don't
yeah.
go." Like,
But
and-
how beautiful is that? Because we don't talk about it. The Bible talks about
Yes.
seeking wise counsel. There's wisdom
Yes.
in the counsel of many. And to have one for you to say, hey, can we have that hard talk?
Mhm.
Because you knew.
Mhm.
You didn't probably really want to hear what she had to say.
But I had
Right.
to take it.
But because of the value you place in her and your relationship and your friendship, you knew that it wasn't out of jealousy, it wasn't out of spite, it wasn't just because I told you so,
No.
but it was, I've walked and I've seen you do what you've done. You've got too much invested into this to just possibly throw it all away.
Yeah.
That's what wise counsel is for, and for everything. I mean, we've been married 15 years, and I have people outside of our marriage that I have to go to and be like, listen,
Yeah.
I need you to help me walk through this one.
Yeah.
I need you to tell me wise counsel. What would you do? Not tell me what to do,
Yes.
Yeah.
but tell me what would you do? How would you respond? How should I respond? And then we have that responsibility to take that wise counsel and say, boo, I ain't losing $50, $17, $700. I'm going. Or, you know what? You're absolutely right. We then
Yeah.
have that decision
It's always
to
a
make.
choice, just
Right.
like following God. And that's what I reminded myself was He blessed me with this and a car for Him and a job. How stupid would I be? Sorry, I don't know if that's, but I would
Please,
be
it's
dumb. I would be dumb for all that He has blessed me with to
Right.
go and throw that away like it was nothing, because
Yeah.
it meant so much for me
Yeah.
because I love Him and I want the best for Him.
And again, that speaks to the relationship that you have with
Yeah.
Jesus, because when you're in a relationship, you know, you guys are in a relationship, you are learning the other person. So it's the same thing when you're falling in love with Jesus. Like, you're learning what He likes and you're learning what He dislikes.
Yeah.
And so when you become so like enamored with Him and so devoted to Him and so attentive to what He likes and what He doesn't like, it gets easier to say no.
Yeah.
Because it's like, if I do this, it's gonna hurt him.
Exactly.
You know, and so just like you figure out what Zach doesn't like and you figure out what Braden doesn't like, are you going to purposely go around and do those things?
No.
Right.
No, it's because you love him and you're attentive to what he needs from you.
And I think it helps too to have that outside perspective, because so often our friends, like especially you guys being in high school, your friends are living in that high school moment. They're living in that 17, 18, 15, 19-year-old age of going, well, this is how you should respond. Whereas if you seek out of yourself and find some wise counsel that says, hey, I've done a few things. And like, especially for Taylor being in this spot of where mom's like, no, you're not going to do this. Like everything within Taylor, because she's 15 and I know her and I got kids almost her age and I was her age. I'm like, you don't want me to have no fun. Like you just, like we get this thing. But when you get a little older and you say, you've been through some things, I'm raising some kids, I remember who I was, what I did. And I'll say, hey, no, I don't want you in the room with the door closed. Not because I don't trust you, because I know it don't take much, right? We know that temptation and that those feelings and those emotions and that stuff so easily takes over. And wise counsel, sometimes not what we want to hear, but it saves our life and saves our relationship so easily. Sometimes when we just like die to our flesh, don't we all love dying
That
to our
flesh will
flesh?
scream out. And there's a
Yes.
scripture, and it's in Proverbs. Don't know the address, but it's like, faithful are the wounds of a friend.
Mm.
So I just
That's good.
and again, like, I will be that voice of
got the
reason,
address.
because you know I hate being that friend sometimes, but at the same time to watch
Yeah.
the fruit that comes out of it. So I feel like it's a good thing.
Right. And he brings an order to it. Like
Yeah.
he's got an order for your relationship, and he's got an order. I mean, if he has order for a sale, surely he's got order for my life, right?
Yeah.
Surely he's got order for our relationship. We talked about that last week. We were talking to somebody, and somebody made a statement to me a couple years ago and says, what's the ministry of your relationship? Like we all individually have a relationship and have a ministry that the Lord's, we have giftings, we have talents. But when the Lord takes my giftings and talents and Brandon's giftings and talents and puts them together with the design and as intricate as he does a cell, it's beautiful. And there's this thing that he wants to come out of it. But if we are so caught up in, we want to do whatever else we want to do, that we don't seek the wise counsel that says, don't bring sodium carbonate into this because it's not going to be right, right? But if we would stop and listen to the scientist that says, hey, don't bring that, it's going to screw stuff up, and we sit back and say it, then we see this beautiful thing begin to happen, and this beautiful thing that can be created and managed in the middle of all of that.
And it takes a lot less faith to believe in, like, it takes more faith, I believe, to believe in human evolution than just actual just thinking about it. Like, there's a creator that created us, a intelligent living creator that created a design that can also live. So that just pouring into that makes so much more sense.
Right. And a design with a purpose. Like a design with a purpose. Like the Lord has each one of us here for our purpose. And how the enemy will come in, and the word says he comes to seek, to kill, steal, and destroy. And he wants to steal that design, and he wants to kill it, and he wants to mutate it so we have relationships that look nothing like what God had designed them to look like in the beginning of what he formed relationships to look like. I think it's beautiful. So before we end, I want to ask all of you one question, and we're just going to do I got a few rapid fire things. So this is rapid fire conversation. You ready?
Okay.
3 things, or your top 3, top 1, whatever you want to do. 3 things that makes a relationship successful. Who wants to start? Okay, Tucker.
The Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Oh,
Ain't left no crumb.
Taylor?
That's all.
Like, who wants to follow that now?
I was gonna say reassurance, going to church, and then love.
Yeah.
Okay, I like it.
I would say a relationship with Christ first and foremost, a relationship individually, and I would say lastly, you need to make sure that you're healed before you get into a relationship.
Preaching, yes.
I'm obviously going to say a foundation on Jesus Christ. Honesty and genuinity. Like being
genuine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Being genuine.
A firm foundation, accountability, and reassurance.
I would say patience, a sounded mind, and also a quick listener.
Before a speaker.
Yeah.
And communication. I want to throw that out there. I tell people this all the time. You met talking, you dated talking, you got married talking, stay married talking. When you stop talking to each other, you stop living and dwelling in unity together. And let me give y'all some advice.
Please.
This is what I have done. I have not done this in a really long time because we are in an amazing spot in our marriage. We've come through some things, but whenever there was a hard conversation that I felt we needed to have, Brandon is not a screamer. He's not a hollerer. He doesn't throw things. Like, anger is not like a part of our relationship. That's just not who we are as people. But sometimes it can get, we call it intense fellowship, you know? There can be some intense fellowship. If you, man or woman, feel like there is a hard conversation you need to have, but you really don't know how it's going to go, plan a date.
Oh, wow.
Go to the most romantic place, the quietest place that you can get a table for 2. And you sit and you have a meal and you have that conversation. Because who's going to take notes, Tucker?
I'm going to take the
Taylor, you got 5 dates this week.
Wait, I'm like, do you guys, like, when I do find a man, do you guys do, like, marriage counseling?
We have done counseling. Yeah.
I actually want, whenever I get married, I want to do counseling and then, like, before I get married to make sure we're on the same page. Because I think we need to have those conversations.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
A marriage counseling is like a thing I tell people all the time because you've got to have the conversation, not just, oh, lovey-dovey, haha.
Yes.
You want kids, you don't want kids. What's the bank account look like? Are we sharing it? Are we not sharing it? What's your spending look like?
Yes.
What do you believe in Are we adopting kids? We not adopting kids? Like all these things. And there are things that he and I don't, biblically we look at things and he believes the way and I believe the way, but it's not enough to destroy a marriage or a relationship with the Lord. And then there are things that I'm like, no, you wrong. And he talks it through and I'm like, oh, baby, you're right. But, and back and forth. But we have had some of the hardest conversations, maybe not for him, but I felt was going to be hard to have the conversation. There were things that because I came into our marriage having self-esteem issues, there were times I needed to talk to him about that. And not even because he was doing things wrong, but it's just the way that I was feeling. And I would go, because I'm like, he's not going to act a fool up in public like that. He's not going to be like Buck Wild throwing dishes and stuff, right? No. But just in case, let's just go into, and we had intimate conversation, one-on-one, intentionally listened. We turned the phones off, we flipped them over, we ate, and we were intentionally sitting there with each other. And there were conversations we would leave going, I don't know if that got resolved. And then there were times it was like, oh, I feel like I can breathe now, like we started over. And so that's my piece of advice. If there's something hard, plan a date.
I like that.
Plan a date and have that conversation. Okay, quick fire really again.
Yes, ma'am.
When you get to heaven besides Jesus, who do you want to meet?
Well, I've already said this. John the Baptist.
John the Baptist.
Moses.
Oh, Ruth.
Wait.
Ruth?
Yes.
Oh.
No, I want to meet Lazarus.
Oh, Lazarus, that's good. You with us?
I'm still thinking.
Okay.
To be honest, I want to meet the operations man. Like, I know it's God, but I know he like assigns people. I want to know the operations manager
Of heaven, that would be God.
Like, I know, but like, you know how he has a
That side of
Jesus.
Yeah.
Like, I want like both of them in a room and be like, okay, how does all this work? Like, what's the situation?
I love it.
Could it be like an angel?
Yeah, it would.
Because I want to meet like the angel of the Lord that came to I want to meet the angel of the Lord that like came to Jacob when whenever like at that time when he got his name changed to Israel and whatnot. Like I want to meet the angel of the Lord.
That's
first.
so cool.
And then probably next would be Jacob.
That's really cool.
Or Noah.
Noah's fun.
Was there an angel that came to Jeremiah? I don't remember. Or was it just a vision that he got? Because I know that he got a vision.
I know he had visions, but I don't know specific. I don't remember a specific angel, but that could have been.
I might be thinking of the wrong one.
Is that the one he fought? Jacob fought, right? Who wrestled?
Jacob
wrestled with the Lord, or wrestled with the messenger of the Lord? Yeah.
Yeah, and Eshua, I think his name was, right?
I don't know. Brittany, who you want?
Edom.
Okay, so I'm stuck between three.
Oh,
There was,
Actually,
like,
so the
H
first
just
one would be
like
Paul.
Paul.
The second one would be Elijah.
Mm.
And then the third one would be Enoch.
Yeah, I want to be like, bruh, you just like got taken up. And what you been doing?
Like, where were you walking?
Yeah.
What were you doing? What were you thinking about? And then you were just like,
you just disappeared.
you know, like
But then I'm like, what'd your family think? Like you just like he was the first missing person on the earth, like just vanished out of the. Okay, yeah.
I just want to ask Elijah about my car.
Gotcha.
Like I need to know.
I want my personal angel. I want to ask him. So how was that? What was going on? Like I know in the spirit.
I want to repent to mine.
No, literally. I know in the spirit. Sometimes he's looking. He's like, Lord, you gotta handle this one because if it was me,
I love it. All right, last one. If you have one, favorite verse in the Bible.
Oh, I got one.
Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me.
Okay.
Psalms 10:18. Oh wait. I'm blanking. Anyway. I'll bring justice to the orphans and the oppressed, and mere people who no longer terrify them.
God, that's a good one.
Yes.
Okay, go.
Isaiah 43:18-19. Forget the former things, neither consider the things of old. Behold, I shall do a new thing. Will you not know it? For I'll make a way in the wilderness and a well spring up in the desert.
Mine is Jeremiah 20, verse 9 through 11. For I will not hold the word of the Lord in. If I do, it becomes like a fire shut up in my bones. I am weary holding it in. I cannot.
Wait.
Ooh,
which
can
one
you
is it?
text
Jeremiah 29.
Mine was also
Yeah,
Jeremiah,
sorry,
in the same sense. It was 6:11. So now I'm filled with the Lord's fury. Yes, I'm tired of holding it in. I will pour out my fury on the children playing in the streets and gatherings of young men, on husbands and wives, and on those who are old and gray.
Yes.
Okay.
Mine is Romans 8:18. The pain and suffering you're going to won't compare to the joy that's coming.
Ooh,
I love that one.
got it. Taylor?
I really like 1 Corinthians 5:5. Hand that one over to Satan for the destruction of the flesh, so that his spirit may be saved in the day of the Lord.
Ooh, good. Well, I'm okay. Go
I
ahead.
had one more. I'm
Okay,
so
another
sorry.
honorable mention. Hello.
Yeah, another honorable mention. And this one's shout out to Miss Kathy because ever since she has taught on it, I've never forgotten it. I'll address, so you feel free to look it up. But he who began a good work in you is faithful to see it to completion to the day of Christ Jesus.
Well, on that note, I'm going to end us with one last honorable mention. It is in, since we're talking about relationships, it is in Song of Solomon. We cannot do relationship without talking about the book of love.
Yes.
Song of Solomon 4:9, it says, how beautiful and lovely are you. With one glance of your eye, I am breathtaking. And I encourage people all the time to think about it this way. When the Lord looks at you, he literally stops breathing. Like when I had that revelation, because I studied Song of Solomon the year before we got married, to know that the Lord looks at me and the very creator of the universe goes, when he sees me, like that's humbling and beautiful and wrecks my world all at the same time, kind of thing. And so I want to end that with all of you, thanking you for being here. Your word, wisdom has been poured out today. And even in between takes, the conversation we've had, you talking about Tucker and encouraging you and just back and forth these different things. The Lord is breathtaking when he looks at each one of you. And we're all in different places in our relationship, and we're all in different places in our life with the Lord and with others. And it's times like this, and it's conversations like this that spurs each other on to be greater and to be better. And so thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you all so very, very much. And for all of our viewers, we thank you for sitting through this amazing, wonderful circus that we have had. We are asking that you would like us, subscribe to us, share this. If you've got college students, if you've got teenagers in your life, heck, if you're in 60 and you didn't know some of the things we're talking about, and you need help in your relationship, would you share this? Would you comment with us? Thank you again for being here. I appreciate you more than you know. As always, I pray that your coffee is strong and that your heart is full and that you walk in right relationship with the Lord. Bye. We'll see you next week. Bye. Bye.